Hello, everybody. It's the Boring Enterprise Nerds with our semi-annual, semi-monthly, semi-whatever Nerdletter talk, where we discuss the things that we're thinking and writing about for our next letter or our next issue of our newsletter. Um, I'm Paul Moderman. With me today is the incredible and amazing Yelena Perfilieva. Say hi, Yelena.
Hi, everyone.
And what we're gonna do is we just take turns and we talk through the stuff we're kind of thinking about writing for, and we break it down and make fun and have fun and see what comes out of it. So, Yelena, kick us off.
Sweet. All right. So I will share my screen. So we always have three stories that we talk about. So my first story has been sitting in my kind of a back burner file for a long time because it's a slightly controversial subject
Hmm.
that keeps coming up, I think, for decades, maybe
Yeah.
since object-oriented programming first came up. Um, So it started interestingly based on the conversation in the Discord channel where SAP professionals gather together these days, and
Hmm.
it's a super secret Discord. I'm not gonna tell everyone where it is. You'll need to find out because we don't want it to turn into another version of SAP community where people come to ask questions that they could just Google for. But so there was an interesting conversation. Someone asked just an innocent question. They were ABAP learners, so they just started learning, and they asked a question: what's a good case in favor of using object-oriented programming, of using classes essentially in ABAP? And of course, as always in any developer conversation, from there
Get out the
it took
pitchforks, right?
yeah, bring of the pitchforks, etc. So it turned into one of those again procedural versus OP and just everything
Yeah.
else, etc. And there are tons of this. So this is Fireship video that everyone can watch. It's of course pretty straightforward. There is also longer video that I watched a while ago and also put it like in my interesting file. It's pretty old, but it's funny. It's 7 years old video, but you see there are comments there just 1 year ago, 8 months
Yeah.
ago. Someone still found this video and they still decided to comment on it. So obviously still hot topic after very
Yeah.
many years. And I think it's about time that we chimed in on the controversy
Man,
over
it is
there.
a controversy. It is
Yeah.
you get some pretty heated discussions going on in that. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I don't even like it's the kind of thing where like if I'm standing around in a group and we're talking about object-oriented programming and somebody's like, well, actually, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get a drink or something. I don't want to
Yeah.
be here for
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
discussion. It's
It's
rough.
it's one of those holy wars. All right. So next story will be also slightly controversial,
Uh,
maybe. So this post I don't even remember where I got it, but I was intrigued by this title. Of course,
hmm.
this is very typical, most overhype. It's another
Hmm.
like list of some things that. But I was curious. First of all, it's CIO magazine, so somewhat reputable still, I think, publication. And I was curious why there are only four. I think there should be at least 10 probably here, if not more. But it's an interestingly. So keep in mind it's overhyped. It doesn't mean that they are not valid, at least not some of them. So number one on this list is quite
I
surprisingly,
mean,
but not surprisingly, generative AI. I think it's interesting. It's not like purely hype, but it is definitely, I think, is talked about like slightly a little bit too much these days.
mm.
Maybe, and I don't know, Paul, you probably will have something to say about this. Uh,
Oh, I have opinions there, Yelena.
yeah, it will be in the whole separate newsletter. So this is one, and let's see. So let's go quantum computing. That
Mm,
does not really, I think, apply into SAP
I don't.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's probably fine for CIOs. Metaverse, that was interesting because in one of very first issues, if not the very first one of our newsletter, we wrote about metaverse when it was just announced, and
Mm,
so Facebook and Microsoft at the same time they jumped on announcing their some kind of virtual environment. But
mm,
and I think it's not just virtual space. The whole it says extended reality or augmented reality, however you call it, the whole some kind of additional reality concept comes here. And this is where I remembered about this piece, because there was also a post on LinkedIn where Arin Bowmick, whom I respect immensely, who is chief design officer for SAP, and innocently he shared some updates from the design team, and it's all like fine, yeah, like unified user experience, interesting, cool. But then again, augmented reality, yeah, recent AR demo, etc. And I'm just thinking we saw something about augmented reality. We've seen those at every TechEd event, at every SAP conference, as long as I have been going to those events. I think 2015 definitely, maybe even earlier. This is where every time you would go there, so there were like wearables, there were some videos of some cool guy like wearing glasses and fixing something and getting help, like in his campaign of some kind of minority report type of virtual screen or something like that. There are lots of just, I don't know, prototypes and very imaginative things, and then it quieted down for a while. And I think it was for a good reason, because it's a tech without the business case. It's something that I think still a novelty, but also it's been hyped for so long that it's not novelty either. It's at this point, I think it's just kind of boring, to be honest. Nothing comes out of it. There is even I bought like latest iPod, I think last year, which promised to have all this AR stuff. There is nothing there. There is like Angry Birds that you can do with your living room as a background. I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of nerdy, but like what's the use case for? What's a real actual value? What's your value proposition? That's always a question that we ask. So I think it's interesting, yeah, to go back to those overhyped, and just in general, maybe it's time to just put it to rest. I don't know, at least until we have normal, some kind of, or at least any real business case for it. So
it's funny
yeah.
about funny about a piece like that. It's called, like, what is it, the foremost overhyped? Yeah. The
Yeah,
foremost
most
overhyped
overhyped.
things. That's almost like saying, here are the top 4 things you shouldn't talk about.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like, then
And
maybe
here
just
we go.
don't talk about them. Yeah.
So we're just piling up on top of
Yeah.
the
Like,
hype
that's
garbage.
it's not helping the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a number, since we're here. So
Oh yeah.
number 4 is
Oh,
Web3 blog.
yeah.
That is like okay, yeah, let's not talk about this like at all. And so third, last but not least, it's also, so I'm really digging into my archives for this issue. Slow news day in the SAP world. So this is also one of those interesting articles that I stumbled upon, and I thought that I will find some place to write about it. It's very interesting series. So this person, she has series of stupid questions that she asks people on Twitter and then gets answers. This is pretty old. You can see 2019. But I think it's still interesting. I'm wondering how that statistic that she gathered changed, but I think it's probably still valid. So her question here was how much time developers spend weekly to stay current, so to upskill. And she was asking specifically about Microsoft. That's because that's what she works with. I think it's probably, these are the results. I think it's probably maybe comparable to SAP world, maybe less, I don't know. But what she spoke about in the video, it's not in the text here. It's differences between different developer types. Some who are just mostly kind of, this is my job and I like it, but after I'm done with my job, I go home and I do other stuff. And there are also some types that I definitely met a lot of them. And again, it's not to throw shade on anyone, but it's important to understand that it's not everyone, not every developer is like that, who just like live and breathe development, who I would say, I joked before, they have like the HANA server in the basement. And so there is very distinct difference between these groups of people. And I think it's interesting to talk about the subject, especially as we're gearing towards ASAC Tech Connect event, where, as you know, shameless plug, Paul and I will be talking about this exact upskilling
You
subject.
have
So,
no shame.
yeah, shameless plug, shameless
Shameless
plug.
plug.
All right,
So
So
actually,
that's
this is one of those things, and we've talked about this when we looked at the SAP developer surveys.
yeah,
This data suffers from the same problem,
yeah,
which is you have to be engaged enough to
yes,
respond to the Twitter poll.
yeah,
And I think you've already, if you do that, you've already selected for
yeah,
like the most engaged people anyway. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the real results are like 87% spend no time at all, and
yeah,
those other ones amount to hardly anything, right? Because I think most developers in most technologies, they're going and then they're just doing other stuff. People, especially people like you and I, who like take time out of our lives to do this, to do newsletters
mm,
and dorky things. Like we're way off the deep end of like the amount of time that we spend, even if you count this stuff as, which I kind of do, I guess, count this as saw sharpening or learning, right? Like I think there's a, it's like an iceberg. There's like a top, not even top. There's just the part that goes above the water and visibly does the effort. And then I think most people in most technologies don't do this kind of stuff. Don't
yeah.
respond to polls. Don't
Yeah,
spend the extra
yeah,
time.
and it's interesting. She actually acknowledged that in the video. She said,
Did
like,
she? Okay.
yeah, yeah, I totally get it. That it's like sort of people who even respond, who follow me,
Yeah.
essentially. So that's already selected group, and even in that group, it's so those would be pretty active people. I would say they at least do something. At least they chose
Mm,
to follow her instead of like latest celebrity on Twitter, and even
mm.
they spend like 7% spent no time at all, which I think it's pretty fair. I think that we should not shame any developers for having a life essential outside of
Yeah,
their
no way.
work. And
I'm
yeah,
like I feel that same way. I like if I meet somebody who like is a developer and they don't do it outside of work, I'm like, good for you.
yeah,
Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. All right, so these are my three upcoming stories,
Okay,
and
let
over to you,
me
Paul.
let me share my brain thoughts. First, we've talked about clean core, and now it makes an appearance in Forbes, an article in Forbes
Ooh.
on why SAP says modern software needs a clean core. And it's been kind of one of those murky terms, you know what I mean?
Mm,
And so Sebastian Schriddle, who is a VP of something or other at SAP, I don't know what, kind of gets in and dives deep on what kind of he thinks it really means and why you should do it.
mm,
And I'm gonna take a look and kind of compare and contrast because we've written about, I think you've written about it once or twice before.
yeah.
And I kind of want to look back at what you've written versus this kind of stuff and see where things come out because like it's this is sort of related to this whole, you know, innovation cloud, as for public cloud, as for private cloud, on-prem, all that stuff is part of the bubble here of like
Mm-hmm.
what's your position on that stuff. And it's like such a moving space, a moving target in the world that I think it's interesting to stay on top of the discussion about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's number, yeah,
if it's in Forbes, I mean, stuff just got super serial. I mean, it's
yeah,
it doesn't get any more important than that.
yeah. Um, okay. So second thing, I did I got the chance to do a video interview with this guy, Sanjay Rajagopalan, who is the chief design officer at Vianai, who is founded by former SAP CTO Vishal Sikka,
Mm,
and did a story and on the AI newsletter about that company. And then their PR team reached out, and was able to have a discussion. And the discussion was large enough that there's like, the way I'm doing this is that there is enough meat there on the enterprise bone to bring like the enterprise bits
mm,
of the discussion to our enterprise nerd letter, and then to take the AI stuff and kind of move that over to the AI newsletter, so we can
mm,
kind of get some features out of both cases there because I realized that, especially given my other story, hint, like I know I still beat the drum too much of the AI thing over here, but I can't help it. I'm in deep. But anyway, it was a great discussion. It touches on a lot of also because you and I share a common past, or it's your present and my past of working at Mindset, which was very focused on design thinking, user experience, and that's a key part of his perspective in applying AI to the enterprise. Is Vianai's human-centered AI thoughts and focuses as they go about doing their stuff. So interesting things in there with this guy, and I'll put a link to the video too. It's good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so finally, Workday at their latest conference, they also announced new generative AI capabilities. It's like if you are an ERP-ish company and you have a conference where your keynote is not generative AI soup to nuts, you have failed.
Yeah.
At least in the way that in the way the hype is going these days, right? The hype says you must gen AI every single thing you say. You know what I mean? And it has these it starts to get this kind of flavor of like, so what's the difference here between what people are saying they want to? Because so look at this first one, generating job descriptions. I think I've seen that feature in like every HR software suite announcement, right?
Yeah.
That's like either Gen AI is a really thin thing that doesn't mean anything, or job descriptions are so terrible to write that it's really valuable for anybody who has a solution out there to offer like a first pass vomit out the description thing. And I think it's probably the latter. I think they're just, I was talking to somebody about it and they were like, yeah, writing job descriptions sucks and takes a long time. So getting something to just like to do your first draft in like 10 seconds, that's a huge time saver. And just things like that, because it's like all these things are very like they resonate with what other companies have said about this stuff. So I'm kind of like, so what's the big deal? So what's the difference? Is there something else here, or is it just like, are you guys just catching up are you guys last to the station with all this stuff? I don't know, because I don't pay much attention to Workday, but I'm gonna take a deeper look and find out.
Yeah, I'm seeing that last item, creating employee growth plans.
Yeah,
I
that's one
mean,
of those
if you
ones we
need
see.
to outsource that to AI, I mean, come on, guys.
I know.
Jeez Louise. These HR people don't want to do anything these days.
HR doesn't want to be humans. That's their problem, right?
Yeah.
HR wants to be all machines.
Yeah.
So step one, turn HR into AIs and see what happens. And they have look at this. They have a co-pilot. Everybody's got a co-pilot. So there's that too. Like Yelena, if you don't announce a co-pilot that you're building in the next month, what are you even doing?
Yeah.
Why are you even in tech, right? So yeah. Okay, but anyway, those are my stories here for our readers and listeners and viewers' pleasure. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Please drop some comments, love, hate, etc. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.